Simon and the team, let me take you back to the 25th of May 1977. When Liverpool FC qualified for their first European Cup final in the eternal city of Rome. Being a lifelong fan, I decided to book a day flight to watch my team in this historic match against Borussia Mönchengladbach of Germany at the Olympic Stadium. I landed in Rome on the morning of the game and joined 25,000 other Reds who had made the arduous journey, many of them travelling overland by special train from Lime Street Station. As it was my first time in Rome, I decided, like many others, to visit the Vatican. Now, my nan was back at home, and she's a devout Catholic and went to church every day, so I decided to buy her a nice set of Vatican rosary beads to take back to Liverpool when in Rome and all that. As I was walking back out of the Vatican, I need to apologise, by the way, there is an accent. There is an accent coming up, which is unavoidable because it is written in this style.
Oh, really?
Okay.
Great. It's either going to be Italian or Scouse.
It's not going to be Scouse. As I was walking back out of the Vatican, I spotted a priest standing in the main hall, and a thought struck me. Since I'm here, I might as well get the beads blessed for Nan while I'm in the Vatican, save for the trouble of doing it at our local church back in Liverpool. I approached the priest, held up the beads, and asked him very politely to bless them. "Ja," he says. "I would very much like and be very happy to do this for you," he replied. It turns out he was from Dusseldorf. Obviously, as you can tell.
Yes, obviously.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he was over for the big match, and he duly did a short prayer over my beads and blessed them. On handing them back, though, he said, "I will not be praying for your team tonight, however."
What is it? French at the end?
No. "I will not be praying for your team tonight," he says, being a German priest.
Yes.
You sound like the vamp in Sesame Street.
Good. Well, there are worse things to sound like. Anyway, he's a priest from Dusseldorf, and he did the honours there, as they say. That's a bit of Catholic language. I smiled, thanked him, and thought no more of it, especially not after Liverpool won the game 3-1, and I was too busy celebrating anyway. I couldn't celebrate for too long, however, as I had to head back to Liverpool the same night. The next day, I told my dad the story, and he said something along the lines of, "For heaven's sake, don't tell your nan they've been blessed by a German. She'll throw an absolute fit." Well, I promised my dad that I wouldn't say a word of that to Nan, and vowed there and then to keep the story to myself. Different time.
Yeah.
A few days later, on Sunday morning, we all went round to Nan's after church, as we did every Sunday, and because this day was also her birthday, all of my uncles, aunts and cousins were there too. In front of everybody, I very proudly presented my gift to her, and she smiled, gave me a little peck on the cheek, and placed the rosary beads around her neck. Nan then said, "I'm going to Mass later, so I'll ask the Monsignor to bless them for me." And this is where it all started to go wrong, and for some unknown reason, I blurted out, "There's no need, Nan, they've already been blessed." Now, I tried to stop my sentence halfway through, but you know what it's like, it's too late, it's already out. "Oh, really? Who by?"
Oh, no.
says Nan. And in a blind panic, I said the very first thing which came into my head.
Yeah.
They were blessed by the Holy Father himself.
The Pope. Great. Yeah, of course he did. Yeah.
The room fell silent, and my Nan, who had by this time clasped the rosary beads firmly to her chest, stammered, You mean the Holy Father, Pope Paul himself, has touched these beads?" Her face had turned white by now, and she'd started to shake. The whole room by now was staring at me as if they knew I was telling porkies. My dad was glaring at me through clenched teeth, which is my favourite phrase.
Yeah, doesn't work. But anyway,
It doesn't really, you get the idea of what he was doing. But I had no choice to carry on and tough it out. "Yes, Nan," I said. "He was walking past the crowd outside the Vatican. I held them up to him, asked him to bless them, and he took them off me and said Hail Mary and passed them back." Well, she started hyperventilating. It became clear we needed to calm her down, so we sent her for a lie down with a glass of sherry, which always works. When Nan recovered a little bit later, she promptly took off her pinny, put on her scarf, coat and brolly, then trundled off to her sisters around the corner in the pouring rain to show off her new souvenir to everyone who would listen. In fact, rumour has it that some women in the parochial club that evening actually fainted when my Nan regaled the story of the Holy Father and the Vatican beads. And to compound my embarrassment, the Monsignor told the tale again from the pulpit at Mass the next week,
Excellent.
much to the displeasure of my dad, who kicked me in the ankle under the pew. He prefers that to the peace anyway. You should have seen his face when my nan got up and walked up and down the aisle to proudly show the beads off to the congregation, many of whom reached out just to touch the same beads. Following that, my dad stopped my pocket money for a month, and he made me put it into the church plate every Sunday as punishment. However, he never told my nan the truth. No one told my nan the truth, and she wore the beads every time she went to church for the rest of her life, and I'm sure it gave her great pleasure and great comfort. However, I do now belatedly beg forgiveness for misleading my lovely little Nana, along with the Monsignor and half the parishioners of St Dominic's in Huyton, Liverpool, in the process. Well, you know, Alan didn't mean to, and from the sound of it, it sounds as though Alan's nan got a great lot of joy, even though it was based on a deception. So maybe there are no victims. I don't know. Let's see what Sister Bobby thinks.
Well, the thing is, of course, Alan, you did that lovely thing. You got a gift and you got it blessed. It's a double gift. That's really considerate of you. And actually, you're right. The deception wasn't yours. You didn't go out to deceive. And there is that moment when she said, oh, and how could you possibly take that away from your nan? And I think surely all blessings are of equal value. Surely it doesn't really matter.
Point.
I don't know these things. Maybe someone could put me right, but it's a blessing. It's a blessing. It's a blessing. And she got to say so much joy from it. And how could you kind of mock her? You couldn't. The point was in the living room, you'd have had to destroy her lovely bit of joy. And from that point on, you just had to go with it. You are forgiven, Alan. I think given the circumstances, that was the best thing to do.
And the last Pope one was German, so it could actually have been him.
Oh, yes. Could have been. Well, obviously everybody wins from this because Gran wins because she gets a rosary that's been blessed by the Pope. I mean, we don't know how this works, but I'm guessing, you know, if it's been blessed by a priest, then line of succession
counts the same.
Command and control. It's the same thing, isn't it?
Command and control.
Yeah, it gets passed down to the bishops and the deacons, and I'm out of my depth. So I'm going to say, yes, I mean, that's fine. So she wins, and he wins, and Liverpool win 3-1, as I seem to remember, on the way to winning 4 other European Cups.
Right.
So everybody wins. Well done. Definitely forgiven.